I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. So, today we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on contractions. So, we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on contractions. And before we start with our lesson on contractions, we are going to log into aplusstudents.ca. And we're going to log in with our username as well as our password. And once we've logged in with our username and as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts. And then we're going to choose grade 2. Once we've selected our language arts, grade 2, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of contractions. All right. So we're not going to go over all of the lessons today, all right? So we're only going to choose a few that we are going to go over. So our chapter that we are focusing on today is contractions, English language arts, grade 2, and our lessons that we're going to be focusing on today is to form pronoun verb contractions, to form contractions with not, and to use contractions within a sentence. So that is what we are going to be focusing on today. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. So we're doing our lessons on aplusstudents.ca. All right, so now we're going to start with our lesson on contractions. So basically, a contraction or contractions, right, are shortened words or a contraction is a shortened form of two words. So it's basically two words that we have, right? And then we shorten it in the form of, it's like adding it together. And whatever word that we leave out, or let's say the letter that we leave out, we add the apostrophe within its place, all right? So remember, even if you remove two letters, doesn't mean that we need to add two apostrophes. We just add like one apostrophe, right? So, of course, during the course of the lesson, we are going to do a few examples as to see how um, we can basically add the apostrophe and how we can add the contractions or write the contractions, right? Because contractions, it's a shortened form of two words. And like I say, it is two words that we basically add together, and whatever word that we remove, or let's say the letter that we remove, we add the apostrophe to show where that letter was left out, right? In order for us to form the either a pronoun or the apostrophe, or basically to change the verb or so on. All right, so a contraction, once again, is a shortened form of two words. So an apostrophe, right? So an apostrophe, there we have an apostrophe. It's that little punctuation mark over there, right? It shows where one or more of the letters are left out, right? So when we leave out a letter, then we show that by adding our apostrophe, right? And it can be formed from a pronoun or it can be formed from a verb. For example, I am, right? So as you can see, I am is basically the two words, right? That's the two words. So it says a contraction is a shortened form of two words. So here we have our two words, which is I am. And if we add the and if we basically find the contraction of the two words, which is I'm, and then it means that it's going to be I'm, right? So I am. So instead of saying I am 10 years old, right? You can say I'm 10 years old. The same with you will. There we have the two words. You will, right? You will be a great dancer one day, right? So instead of saying you will be a great dancer one day, you can say you'll be a great dancer one day. But now, how did we get to find this word, right? Is by saying, for example, you will, that is our two words, right? So we need to now basically add these two words together in order to find our contraction. So basically, the first word, it stays the same. The pronoun stays the same. So you stays the same, right? So you stays the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave out the W and the I. We're going to use the W and the I of the verb, right? So we have will as in the verb. So now we're going to leave out the W and the I. And when we leave that out, we're going to add an apostrophe and just add our double L. I think I'm writing skew. Let me make an example of I am, right? So for example, I am 10 years old. So if I am is our two words, there we have our pronoun and there we have our verb, right? So we now need to add these two words in order for us to get our contraction, which is I'm, right? So now we need to know how did we get to I'm. So which means that we bring down our pronoun. We leave the pronoun over there, but we are going to remove the A. And if we remove the A or we leave out the A, and then we're going to add the apostrophe in the place of the A, and we bring our M down, right? So instead of saying I am 10 years old, we can say I'm 10 years old. So that is basically what we do, right? We need to you bring down your pronoun, right? And then you basically just we leave out, for example, one or two of those letters, and then we whatever letters that we leave out, we put the apostrophe in its place. And like I say, the same here with will, W and I was left out. It doesn't mean that we are making a double apostrophe. We only make one apostrophe, even if we leave out three letters, right? Just an example. All right, so that is basically us if we form let's say, just normal contractions, and we basically form contractions by using the pronoun or from the pronoun as well as the verb, right? So now, when it comes to contractions, right, contractions can also be formed from a verb and a word not, right? So is not, was not, can not, will not, right? So which means that our words, contractions, can also be formed from a verb and the word not, right? And like I said, for example, is not, cannot, will not, right? So we can also form our contractions from there. And in most of our contractions with the word not, the spelling of the verb does not change, right? So in most of the contractions, the spelling of the word most, it does not change, right? It's the same like we said yeah, the pronoun does not change. For example, I, which is the pronoun, am is the verb. So which means that if we form the contraction, then we leave the pronoun and we change the verb, right? So which means that in most contractions with the word not, the verb does not change, right? And the apostrophe, of course, it takes the place of the O, which means that we are going to change the word not. So with the word not, we are going to basically leave out the O, and in the place of the O, that is where we're going to put the apostrophe. And if we look at an example, right, is not, right, is not. So in order for us to basically create our contraction, right, we will say is not. So our verb is stays the same, right? So now what we're going to do is not is and not, right? So we need to basically put these two words together. We need to add these two words together to make a shortened one word, right? Isn't, by adding our apostrophe also. So our verb stays the same, which is, right? And now we're going to only leave out the O, and we're going to add an apostrophe in its place, which means that we're going to say is not, but saying isn't. We left out the O, we put the apostrophe in its place, and we bring down our T, right? So here in this place, you must imagine that the O is there, right? It's like an imaginary O, but this now is our contraction, isn't, right? So is not, our contraction is isn't, right? So for example, saying Sarah is not going to school, right? So we can say Sarah isn't going to school. And there we have our word is and not, but we remove the O and we put the apostrophe in its place, right? And this is now becoming one word. This is one word. And we call that the contraction, right? Then we have were not, were not, right? And our contraction is weren't. So were not. And our contraction is weren't. So in order for us to get to our contraction weren't, we're going to bring down were, which is our verb, and then not, we're also going to bring down. However, we are going to leave out the O. So we bring down the N. Remember, we're leaving out the O. We're adding the apostrophe in its place, and we bring down the T. So this is now our contraction weren't. And it has now become a shortened form of two words. So there we have our two words, were not. And now we have shortened that two words by putting it together. So weren't, right? And if we look at the contraction can't, if we look at the contraction can't, right? This contraction can't, right? They're saying it is very special because it is not like it's saying can't, as in can and not, because here two of the letters are left out, right? Especially when it comes to not. So it's the N and the O that is left out, right? So this word is basically a shortened word for cannot, right? So cannot. So basically the words that was left out that we had to replace with a with a apostrophe was the N and the O. So we had to basically just add the apostrophe over there. All right. Now, to basically make a contraction, right, we need to drop the letters. So in order for us to basically make a contraction, like we said, right, in order for us to add those two words together, in order for us to have a shortened form of two words, we need to drop the letters N and O. This is now when we make cannot or can't, and we put the apostrophe in its place, right? That is now to get the special form of can't. Or in order for us just to basically get or make our contractions, right, we basically just drop a few letters or one or two letters. We add the apostrophe in its place in order to get our shortened form of those two words, right? And we made an example of can't and cannot, right? Where we dropped these two letters, which is N and O, and we added our apostrophe and we got our contraction, which is can't. Another contraction that is also, or another word or contractions that is also special, right? And this one is special because the verb changes. The verb changes, right? And that is will not, right? So will not. And what makes will not special is the fact that, like we said, the verb changes. So there we have will not, right? So usually they said that what we have to do is we leave the verb and we bring down the not, but we take out the O, right? But in this case, right? In this case, will not, will basically changes now. So I will not go to the dance, right? I will not do dishes for 1,000 people, right? So which means that we can say I won't do that, right? I won't go to the dance. So we then remove basically we basically remove the whole I double L word, right? And in that place we add an O. So it is W, we add an O, right? And now we need to add not. We need to add not. We bring down our N, like we said. We bring down our N, like we said. We remove the O also. We add the apostrophe in its place, and we add the T. And that is won't. Right? And the I double L that we removed from the verb, right? We do not put an apostrophe in its place because, like we said, we don't add apostrophes twice, only one apostrophe, right? So we only add one apostrophe. And if we look at a few examples, right, of different contractions, says it's a shorter way to say two words, is not, there we have isn't. I am, there we have I'm. We are, in order to say we are, we're. She will, right? She will, she'll, right? He is, he's. Do not, there we have our word don't. It is, we have it's. Did not, I did not do that. I didn't do that. They are, and we can say they are, right? So those are a few examples of our contractions, which is a shorter way to say two words by adding those two words together, leaving out certain, let's say one or two of those words, either of the verb, or if we having not there, then we leave out the other word of not, the O of not, right? All right, so now we're going to aplusstudents.ca. And we're going to do form, pronoun, verb contractions. And we already explained the forming the pronoun, verb contractions, right? Where we said that the word, the pronoun and the word, for example, I am, this is our pronoun, this is our verb, right? Which means that the pronoun stays the same, which is I, and the verb changes, which means that we leave out the A of the verb, we add the apostrophe, and we bring down the M, right? And that is I'm. And the same with you will, right? You will. There we have you, which is our pronoun, will, which is our verb. We bring down you, which is our pronoun, that stays the same. And we basically remove the W and the L of will. We add the apostrophe in its place, and we add the double L for will. So you'll, right? So that is our contractions that we form from a pronoun and a verb, where the pronoun stays the same and we basically leave out a few letters or a letter of the verb. All right, so now we need to type the contraction that matches the word. She will. She will. How are we going to type the contraction that matches the word she will? So she will. What do you think the contraction might be of she will? Can you like maybe type it for me? She will. Remember we said that we leave the pronoun stays the same, which will be she, and then we're only going to change the word will. All right, so if we basically find the contraction, right, of she will, and then it will be she, which is our pronoun, right? You're going to leave out the W and the I. We put the We put the apostrophe in its place and we add the double L, which means that our contraction is she'll, right? So she will, it means she'll, right? So she'll. You are. You are. How are we going to match our contraction with the word you are? So if we have you are, right? Remember we said that we leave the pronoun, and now we're going to leave out only the letter A, right? We put the apostrophe in its place and we add the R and the E. So your, right? All right, so now we're going to our test, right? Where we are going to form pronoun verb contractions. So we are going to form the words, right? Remember when we form contractions, right? Remember there's an apostrophe. We need to add the apostrophe with certain letters that was removed or left out, right? For example, we need to type the contraction that matches the word. They will. So the apostrophe, they, not the apostrophe, the contraction they will. Is it they'll or is it they will? What is our contraction? Remember, it is a shortened word that we had to form with two words. And remember, add the apostrophe also so that we can see the contraction. If there's no apostrophe, it means that that is not a contraction. So they will. Is it they'll or is it they will? All right, so if we choose the correct one, then we will say it is they'll. So they will, they'll, right? And they'll is correct. So well done. They'll is correct. She is. She is the contraction she's or she's without apostrophe at the end. Which one is correct? The apostrophe before the S or the apostrophe at the end? Which one is correct? She's. Is it option one is our correct contraction or option two is our correct contraction? So she's or she's. Let us at least try. Because remember we said that the pronoun stays the same, right? We leave out the I. We leave out the I, we put the apostrophe in its place, and we add the S. All right, so if we choose the correct one, we will say she's, right? She's with the apostrophe just after the pronoun, not at the end of the word. So well done. Yeah, she's is correct. Do not remove that word that was correct, right? He will. He will. If we find the contraction, is it he will or he'll? Yeah, she's was correct, right? So well done. So he will. Is it he will or he'll? The contraction that matches the word. He will or he'll. All right. So if we choose the correct contraction, right? And then we will say it's heal, right? Heal, where the pronoun he stays the same and we shortened those word will, right? And we added our apostrophe in the middle. So heal, and heal is correct. Great job, guys. All right, so now we're going on to the next lesson, which is to form contractions with not, right? And earlier on, we explained how we get to the contraction or the shortened form of the verb and not, right? The verb and the word not. So a contraction is a shortened form of two words, and then we add an apostrophe that shows where one or more letters are left out. And once again, if we leave out two letters or we leave out three letters, it does not mean that we need to add two or three apostrophes. We only add one apostrophe to show where one or more letters are left out, right? So with the contractions, right, a contraction can also be formed from a verb and the word not, right? And in most contractions with not, the spelling of the verb does not change. The apostrophe just takes the place of the O, right? So which means that we remove the O or we leave out O in not, and then we put the apostrophe in its place. And an example, right, is, which is our verb, not, right? So if we form the contraction by using these two words, which is our verb stays the same, right? And we form it with not, then it means that we're going to bring the N for not, we're going to remove the O, we're going to put the apostrophe in its place, and then we add the T. So isn't. So it's like saying that is our verb is, that is our word not, but the apostrophe is taking the place of the O that we had removed. Remember not, so which means that we need to add the T. Add the T at the end. Yes, well done. So we add the T at the end. So is not. So if we shorten those words, then it's isn't. Because you need to imagine that we have, imagine that the O is there, right? So imagine that the O is there, but it's not there because we removed it and we added the apostrophe in its place, right? So is not, it's like putting those two words together, but we remove the O and we put the apostrophe in its place. The same with were not, right? Were not. We need to basically put these two words together, right, to form our contraction. Remember we said that our verb stays the same. Bring our verb there. Now we need to add not to that word, right? So not we're going to add, but we're going to add the N for not. We leave out the O. We put the apostrophe in the place of the O and we bring out T for weren't. Were not, weren't. There we have our imaginary O there somewhere where that apostrophe is. That is our imaginary O where the apostrophe is. So it's like putting the word were not together, but we just left out the O, right? And that is our contraction. And then we said that some of our contractions are special, like cannot and won't, right? So cannot, we have our word cannot. It's like saying can and saying not, right? But this is, of course, one word. So if we write the shortened form, then we're going to bring down this word can, right? And then we're going to now remove the N and we remove the O of the word not. And we put the apostrophe in its place and we bring down the T for can't, right? Can't, cannot, can't. So here we had to remove the N and the O in order to show our contraction, right? Not just the O. We removed the N and the O to show our contraction. All right. And then we also have the contraction won't, right? And once again, won't, we say that this is also special because of the spelling that changes, right? So if we have will not, so will not, then it means that yeah, by will not, we basically bring our W only. And that word I and L is going to change into an O. Now when we bring our N and our T, our not, we still remove the O of not, and then we bring our N. The O that we removed or left out, we put the apostrophe, and we bring our our T. And then we have won't, which means that the verb had changed specifically, right? Because usually when we have our contractions with the verb as well as the word not, then the verb stays the same. But in this case, the verb had changed, and that makes it quite special. All right, so now we need to type the contraction that matches the word. Do not. Do not. Here we have our word, our verb do, and we have not. If we form the contraction of these two words, do not, what is going to be our contraction? Remember we said the verb stays the same. So if the verb stays the same, we bring down do. Now, if we add this word not by removing the O, what is going to be our word? That is the start of the contraction. Which means that if we bring down our not, we bring the N, we remove the O, we put the apostrophe in its place, and we add the T. So don't. So do not, it's like saying don't. And we add our apostrophe in the place of the O that we left out. Right? All right, so now we're going on to our test. So we need to type the contraction that matches the words, right? Do not. Do not. Is our contraction do not, or is our contraction don't? What is our contraction? Do not or don't. Remember, this is a shortened form of two words, which is our verb as well as not, and we need to shorten those words. So what is our contraction? Do not or is it don't? Let us try. All right, so if we type or find our contraction, right, and then we will say it is don't, right? So don't is do not, don't, right? We brought down our verb, which is do not, which is don't, D-O, and the N-O-T, the not, we remove the O and we put the apostrophe in its place, right? So don't. And don't is our contraction. Did not. Did not. So if we find the contraction, is it option 1, which is did not, or option 2, which is didn't? Didn't. Either option 1, which is did not, or option 2, which is didn't. All right, so if we find our contraction, right, or we write the contraction of the word did not, then yes, didn't is correct. Didn't is correct. So well done. Didn't is correct. Shortened words for did not. Are not. Are not. Is it are not? Do we leave it the same? Or do we put those words together and have a shortened word for aren't? Which one is our correct contraction? Are not or aren't? So we need to find the contraction that matches the word. Not even find, but we need to select the contraction that matches the words. So is it option 1 or option 2? Even though I would want you to type out the word. All right, so if we select the contraction, then it will be aren't, right? Are not, aren't. And that is our contraction of the word are and not. So now have not. Have not. Is it have not or haven't? Have not or haven't? We need to find the contraction that matches the words have and not. Is it have not or haven't? So is it option 1, which is have not, or option 2, which is haven't? We need to type the contraction that matches the words have not. All right, so we are going to select our contraction, right, that matches the words have not, and it's going to be haven't, right? So our verb stays the same, which is have, and then we bring down not, we remove the O, put the apostrophe in its place, and then we have haven't, right? Haven't. Let's do the last one. Is not. Is it is not or isn't? Is not is our contraction is not or isn't. So is not or isn't. And if we choose our contraction for is not, and then we can choose isn't, right? So isn't is correct, right? All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on contractions, right? In our next lesson, we are going to complete the other lessons, right, on using contractions within a sentence. We're going to use pronoun verb contractions and we're going to use contractions with not. That will be in our next lesson. But now in this lesson, we did contractions, right? Where we had to form pronoun verb contractions, right? Because we said a contraction is a shortened form of two words. It's like you have two words and you basically put those two words together, whatever words you leave out, you put an apostrophe. Remember, you can add one or more words, one or more letters, right, from that specific word. However, we don't add more than one apostrophe. We only add one apostrophe to show the word that we had, the letter that we had left out. So thank you very much, guys, for joining the our class today. Thank you for interacting, and I really do hope that you have a better understanding of what contractions is. You should have an amazing weekend further. Goodbye.